Hi, Maciej. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me. It's a real honor and a privilege.
Thank you for having me.
So, Maciej, you have been working for WTS patent attorneys out in Poland for a few months. How is the current COVID-19 situation impacting the legal sector in general, and which are the major changes you've seen in the last few months?
When it comes to Polish jurisdiction, it should not come as a surprise that normal functioning of courts and administrative bodies has been drastically interrupted. The acts adopted by the Polish parliament resolved that the running of time limits that are appointed in the administrative proceedings, as well as court and administrative court proceedings, did not begin. And if they did already begin, they would be suspended. And right now, we are slowly observing the judicial branch resuming its normal work. The Polish Patent Office is going to proceed with contentious proceedings quite soon. But for 2 months, most of their activities were put on hold. At the same time, there was a lot of work for our patent attorneys to do. According to new law, actions performed in that time frame remained effective. For instance, when it comes to validation of European patents or filing patent applications, it was still possible to submit applications, and we strongly encouraged our clients to do so, especially taking into account that the rules did not change when it came to determining application dates and priority dates.
So, did you see a drop in from any of your clients not filing PCT EP validations because of the COVID-19 situation to maybe save some money?
Uh, Unfortunately, that is something that you have to take into account considering this situation. This is what we expected, and this is what has occurred. That some of our clients needed to cut their expenses, and that cuts resulted in some decline in a number of commissions that we got. Yet, still, as I said, there's a lot of work to do um, because you can see that in some sectors that are of great interest to IP law, there is renewal of activity. There is this great movement to offer solutions that would address this current situation. So actually, while on the one hand, some of our clients are, let's say, not that eager to proceed with new commissions, there is also another group that is more determined than ever to file applications. So it's kind of paradoxical that that opposition between those two groups, but it's quite natural when you consider what are the reasons behind it.
So, Machi, as a lawyer and PR specialist at WTS, your responsibilities are mostly related to the company's presence in social media. What are the hottest topics related to COVID-19 that you have seen published since you joined the WTS team?
Okay, so first of all, we wanted to provide our clients with reliable and comprehensive information about how the current situation is going to impact proceedings before courts and other administrative bodies. So when it comes to topics related to COVID-19, we wanted to provide, we wanted to explain in a manner that would be clear and accessible, and meaning and consequences of the new regulations adopted by the Polish Parliament to address the coronavirus crisis. But moreover, we use social media to keep our followers up to date about our current activities. So in the time of COVID-19 pandemic, we have teamed up with a few brilliant people who set up their own biotechnological companies, which contribute in their own way to this common and unprecedented effort of the whole scientific community to combat COVID-19. Whether those contributions involve an invention of new diagnostic methods or whether they can be used to create a vaccine, we work together with those people. We represent them in the proceedings related to filing applications. And recently, we published a few posts in which we introduced our followers to those clients. And those posts, those articles, enjoyed a great level of interest, I would say. People got engaged. They commented. They liked those posts. So that's the other thing. But I would also say that we always try to guarantee some level of diversity of the content that we provide. So besides, we all need some break from this incessant cycle of news related to coronavirus. So in our legal reports that we publish fortnightly on our website as well as on our LinkedIn profile, we cover some specific cases and legislative developments. So we treat it as a way to either familiarize our clients with some hot button topics concerning IP law, as well as to engage in a debate with other professionals. And even though COVID-19 has been, let's say, successful in capturing our attention for a while, some novelties never stop to come up in a field as dynamic as IP law. And a few of those novelties did show up recently. For example, we had a ruling of German Constitutional of March 20 that put into question the whole future, which was already quite uncertain, of the EU's unified patent card. And we dedicated 2 consecutive reports to our analysis of this judgment and predictions of its outcomes. And even last week, we heard about European Patents Office decision in so-called Pepper case that contributes in an important way to an ongoing debate regarding exceptions to patentability of plants and animals. So stay tuned. Our report regarding the latter is going to be published soon.
Oh, wow. So Maciej, how does it feel for you personally coming into this new firm right before this pandemic really took a big hit? Myself as well, also starting with this new company. How did this change your job in particular and being part of a team that's potentially working together with some of the future of science, hopefully coming up with a solution to this COVID-19 pandemic?
Mm-hmm. Well, it was an unexpected way to begin my adventure with this new company because there was so little time to for adjustment, to get to know this new reality, get to know this new team. And almost right away, we had to transition into another mode of work. So I'm still excited about getting to know people from my team because many of them I have not got to know yet. So that's something I'm looking forward to, and I hope that once this pandemic ends, we can meet and we can talk to each other. But right now, I mean, I think that it is still possible, and I think we are taking advantage of this opportunity to um, be um, adapt to performing our tasks in these new circumstances.
Yeah, so Maciej, I actually look at this as an opportunity for someone like yourself who hasn't gotten used to his day to day, hasn't created a streamline of what the process is supposed to look like. So you might have had an advantage over other PR and other PR professionals in the legal space because you came into the situation without a set structure. So you were able to go straight into potentially creating something that can be very valuable to your firm.
Oh yeah, so I think that's a good point that you made because it is it helps to approach this situation with, let's say, a fresh head. You are not following any routine. You are not falling into any patterns that you know, but you are simply in this new situation, and you have some toolkit and you have to adapt to it. So being, I think, being someone from outside, someone who is not bound by any routine, any habits, is actually quite beneficial in the times that unexpected, in the times of crisis when you have to rethink so much about how you act, how you react to what happens to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So this, hopefully your bosses will see this and WTS will be able to grow with your professionalism. And as a young professional working in the legal sector, do you feel this unprecedented global situation helps you foster a particular set of skills?
Well, I would not say, first of all, that this particular situation was an opportunity to discover new tools. Because we hear it from so many sources about various computer programs, applications, and internal platforms, of course. But in fact, I think that these tools have been there for a while now. And what did change, in fact, was that our growing feeling of urgency to adapt better to using them. So to me, the most significant and valuable challenge would be something else. Being pulled out so violently of my routine required to develop and foster a new set of organizational skills. Without my regular schedule, without having any points of reference provided by the outside world, um, I think we all need to gain a much greater level of control over our own time. So being on your own, you have to rethink how you manage it. And I would say that this served for me as a lesson of, I think, independence and responsibility when it comes to approaching my own duties. And it turned out that this following of an, let's say, following of an internal discipline leads to a greater productivity. You can see some visible improvements in how efficient you are.
You're also a PhD candidate at the University of Wrocław. How's the COVID-19 situation impacting your student life?
Mm, I have to say that I think that the academic field is the one where the social distancing is particularly difficult because without a proper discussion, without an engagement, it becomes lifeless and barren. I would say when it comes to my conducting my own research, it is, let's say, tolerable, though I miss being able to walk into library and live through a book that is actually a material object. But actually, this was my first semester as a course instructor. I teach European Union law and introduction to international law. And after only 2 weeks of regular classes, all the activities at the university were suspended, and we had to transition into e-learning. I I think, or at least I hope that we are dealing quite well with this unforeseeable challenge. But this situation requires both sides, me as well as my students, to constantly adapt to it, to actually never stop learning how to manage in those circumstances. Um, I believe that even though all these internet tools serve their purpose quite well, in fact they in fact they distort our communication. They flatten these interactions. So it's the real connection seems so hard to establish. If you tell a joke and you cannot tell if the people who are listening found it funny or not, it's quite disconcerting. But it's not only that. I really need to probe their reactions to what I'm saying to get an idea whether they are following what I'm trying to explain, whether they understand the topics that we are trying to cover. And here, the whole process becomes frustratingly one-sided because I
Right.
see only those all small squares, like 20 or so on my screen. And that, therefore, there is this lack of balance between me and them. It's mostly me speaking and they listening. So I cannot treat it actually in any other way than just a temporary substitution.